Hi, everyone. Uh, Let me introduce myself. My name is Amritash. I'm an alumnus of IIT Madras. And today's webinar is about pursuing a PhD at IIT Madras in the Wadhwani School of Data Science or AI. Um, Quickly want to set a few house rules and then introduce the guests. So, our guest today will be presenting about the department and about the work that's being done in the department and the process. The webinar is being live streamed on YouTube, so you can always catch it later. You can share it with your friends later. Um, Professor will also be taking a few questions, so you can think of it as about 20 to 30 minutes of presentation and to 30 minutes of Q&A, depending on how many questions you ask. We had the same webinar with Professor Ravindran, who is the head of department last week, and we had a great Q&A session, and it's on YouTube. Okay, so I want to start by saying that it's a fascinating moment in AI. Things are moving in crazy speed, and research labs across the world are constantly breaking boundaries and bringing out new stuff, including the ones at IIT Madras. In that context, it's a privilege for me to introduce our speaker, Professor Mitesh Khapra. He's a faculty at the Wadhwani School of Data Science and AI at IIT Madras. And he's also the head of the AI4Bharat Research Lab. I'm sure some of you have heard of AI4Bharat. Is doing some cutting edge work on building large scale AI systems for Indian languages. And Professor Kapra's work in this field is well recognized. In recognition of his work and his influence in AI for Bharat, he was recently named among Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in AI, testament to both the depth and the relevance of his work. With that, please join me in welcoming Professor Mitesh Khapra. Sir, it's a privilege to have you on board today. Um, Over to you. Uh, Professor, I think we are not able
Sorry,
to hear you.
sorry. I hope I'm audible now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So Amrita, just checking. So I should go over the presentation first. Like, how do you want me to?
Yes, sir. So we have a mix of people from different colleges and different backgrounds. Some of them are
Huh,
working, so some of them are aware of the department's work,
huh.
and some of them are not aware. So we can go through a few slides in the presentation, and then we can
Okay.
take questions.
Okay. So I'll then try to finish the presentation quickly because this material they can look
Yeah.
elsewhere also and try to do more question answers, right? So I'll keep that as the directive.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. I am a faculty, as Amritash introduced, in the Wadhwani School of Data Science and Artificial Intelligence. And I'm going to talk about a few of the things, cutting edge work that we do at WSAI, as we call it, as an intro, and then happy to dive deep based on questions and interest from the participants, right? Yeah. So we have been looking at various questions that people have asked, how to apply for the PhD admissions process, what is the future of AI research. So we'll try to cover some of these as we go along, right? Um, and to begin with, right, it's especially like a great time to be in data science and AI, as Amrutash was just mentioning, right? That in research, a lot of cutting edge work is happening in AI, which also means there's a lot of good funding available for AI research, right? Which helps departments and institutes like ours, right? And there's also a lot of interest in collaboration between academia, industry. India, of course, has a very vibrant AI ecosystem, I would say. If you have been following the news last month, India had its first sovereign AI model released, which was the Sarvam model. IIT Madras was a part of that effort through AI for Bharat. And Sarvam also traces back its roots in some form to AI for Bharat early days at IIT Madras. Pratyush was, of course, a faculty here before he started Sarvam AI. So quite a bit of vibrant environment we have here for AI research. Um Here are some statistics and news items, right? This is our faculty appearing in different lists across the world. So Professor Ravindran, who is also the head of the Department of Data Science and AI, has been India's appointed nominee to UN's Independent International Scientific Panel on AI. I'll not talk too much about myself. I think Amritash has already covered that, right? And also in research across the world, India ranks third in AI competitiveness after US and China, right? And everyone has sort of if you're following news, you would have read about AI as the future. A lot of you would have learned coding in your high school. You would have learned it as a part of your BTech B programs, and you would be seeing news about how it is evolving with time, how traditional jobs are changing because of advances in AI. And if you want to be a part of those advances, then IIT Madras, Wadhwani School of AI is the right place to be, right? This is the 18th department that was formed, the youngest department at IIT Madras. It was launched in 2024 with a significant grant from the Wadhwani Foundation to establish this as an uh, frontier school of AI, right, or frontier department of AI in India and do cutting edge research. We have several research centers focusing on both applied side of AI through the Walmart Center of Excellence, Mint, which works on transportation, to more fundamental work at Center of Responsible AI, where we are focusing on safety, fairness, and other concerns related to AI. AI for Bharat, where we focus on multilingual, multimodal AI or making AI work for Indian languages, right? Very recently, the youngest addition to these centers of excellence is the Center of Excellence for AI in Education. This is a large effort under the Ministry of Education. I am one of the principal investigators, and here the idea is to have transformative impact on the ground. Can we have a co-pilot for every teacher? Can we have a co-pilot for every student? Of course, many of you are already using co-pilots in the form of ChatGPT and Gemini, but the idea here is that can we have a co-pilot which is homegrown and caters to India's needs, India's policies like national education policy, India's curricular frameworks like NCF, India's syllabus grounded in NCRT, SCRT. So we are working on building that stack, the foundational AI stack. We call it the Bharat Edu AI stack. That work is happening right here in IIT Madras on this very floor that I sit on. Fairly cutting edge in terms of the impact that we could have as well as the research objectives that we have. We have multiple programs. We have the BTech program, the MTech program, PhD program. There's also an MS. There's the online BSc degree. There are several training programs that we run for the industry. So quite a bit of a vibrant ecosystem in terms of students from different programs interacting in different courses as well as projects as well as research groups. So at AI for Bharat, I have students who come from the BTech program, the dual degree program, the master's program, and the PhD program, all of them working towards a common goal. And this is like a consistent story across labs in the department. We have several, as I was talking about, impactful projects running in the education space. We have close to 20 faculty, which and additional professors of practice, adjunct faculty, visiting faculty who are associated with the department. A fairly young but growing department in terms of student strength. You can see across all programs we have a representation, with the largest representation being in the interdisciplinary dual degree program, which is quite a hit with the BTech students here, who in their third year get a chance to do a dual degree in data science and AI, and many of them opt for that. We have 105 students in BTech spread across 2 years. The MTech strength is also growing. PhD students is also increasing, and I guess many of you are looking to join us there. Even with this small strength, we already have a lot of high impact publications in leading journals and conferences across the world. These are international conferences and journals. These are some of the faculty. You can see there we have a mix of faculty working in theory, core machine learning theory, trying to figure out better optimization algorithms, better convergence proofs for these algorithms. Faculty focusing on areas like reinforcement learning. Then faculty focusing on traditional sort of AI areas around NLP, vision and speech, right? Which includes uh, the perception part. And then faculty working on the applied science, as I said, transportation, biology, finance, all of these areas. We have different faculty working, medical imaging, medical image processing, and so on. And we continue to grow the strength. We started off with 15 faculty, have quickly ramped up to 20, and we expect a few more to join by the end of this year. Um, yeah, you can check the profiles of all our faculty on our websites. I'll not go in detail on that. We also have several visiting faculty who collaborate with us by frequently visiting the department, having joint PhD master students who are advised by them, or just joint research projects with students on both sides, students and faculty on both sides. Several professors of practice who come with a lot of industry experience, right? And they help us sort of look at our research through the lens of what the industry wants, what would be adopted there, so that our students have a better chance of working on cutting edge industry facing problems. I can talk a bit about AI for Bharat. So we have been doing cutting edge work on Indian languages. Our work has been recognized internationally, of course, through the several awards that Amrita spoke about, but also academic awards in terms of winning outstanding paper awards, best theme paper awards at leading international fora like ACL, EMNLP, Interspeech, and so on, right, which are fairly top conferences in the respective fields of language, speech, and vision. Also, IGDAR is something that where we recently got a award. We have been building speech recognition models, translation models, speech synthesis models, and also OCR models. We were also a small part of the sovereign LLM effort at Sarvam AI. And a lot of our work has been put out in the open source, which gives us a lot of visibility and credibility in the Indian AI ecosystem. A lot of the sovereign efforts driven in the country today trace back their origins to some of the data sets, models, etc., that were published by AI for Bharat. One of our flagship projects is this large scale data collection across the country, where we went to close to 500 districts out of the 800 odd districts in India and collected voice samples from close to 50,000 speakers, which were then transcribed and are sort of foundational ingredient for various speech recognition models being built across different startups in the country. Yeah, as I said, I already covered a lot of these things, so I'll not spend more time on this. We are also now focusing on building the Indic LLM arena. This is an interesting space where a lot of LLMs are getting built. They all claim we support so many languages, we are compliant with Indian culture, and so on. But there's no real evaluation of these models. There's a lot of academic benchmarks, but these benchmarks get contaminated in the sense that many people put them in their training data or repeatedly try reporting numbers on these, in which case they sort of optimize on these benchmarks. So we have set up an LLM arena where the goal is to have in the wild evaluations. So we partner with on ground organizations like Joe Stocks, who have tremendous reach across the country, and they help us onboard real participants who ask their queries in their uniquely Indian way, in their uniquely language specific way. And then we try to evaluate the performance of various frontier models, both homegrown and commercial open source, to see which one performs best, right? So this is a very evolving space. Not much has happened on evaluation in Indian languages, and we are again at the cutting edge of this space for Indian languages. Um, the last thing I would like to talk about, I briefly mentioned it during the introduction, is our new effort on building, on sort of setting up a center of excellence in AI for education. The goal here is to build a co-pilot for every learner, every teacher, every administrator in the country to bring in a lot of efficiency and augmented support in the Indian education system. We all crib about poor teacher-student ratios. The National Education Policy talks about the importance of teaching in regional languages, creating high quality content. AI can do all of this today. Can we leverage it effectively so that students and teachers, especially in low-income schools and government schools, can benefit from it, right? So while we will focus on building the products, distributing it, partnering with NGOs, governments, and so on, underlying, there are core research problems which need to be solved to make AI for education work at scale in India. So we have listed down 200 plus research problems in this space, spanning 8 different research verticals, including speech recognition, speech synthesis, OCR for handwritten content, visual reasoning, safety in large language models, pedagogical alignment of large language models, and other such verticals. And we have students as well as collaborators from industry now going over this list of problems and working on them one by one. You can check out our webpage to see the cutting edge problems that we have. And if you join here, you could potentially have the opportunity to work on some of these problems if you work with any of the faculty aligned with Bodhan AI's vision. So I'll end here, perhaps, and sort of open up the floor for any questions. We also have some work being done in healthcare, genome sequencing for Indian demographic, maternal and child healthcare, and various other things, which is being led by Professor Karthik Raman. So for those of you who have interest in sort of interdisciplinary work, there is a lot of frontier research that we do, our faculty do in healthcare. So education is an important vertical, healthcare is an important vertical, even responsible, safe AI is an important vertical, language technology is an important vertical for us. So quite a bit of the landscape of AI, very diverse landscape of AI is represented in the department. So I'll take a pause here and let you all sort of reflect on this, ask questions, comments. I'll open the floor for that. I hope that's okay, Amritash.
Yes, Professor, that is perfect. I wanted to just bring out these questions. Uh, I think they've come up today also, and they had come up on the previous webinar also, about what the PhD program entails. Is it full time? Is it residential? Is it part time? Are there different options? How flexible is it? And
Ah,
what is the kind of workload that is there? I think there was something about being self-directed. I don't remember the exact question, but I thought that maybe you could give an overview of what the PhD program looks like.
yeah. So, I mean, the most sort of regular program is the
Professor, I'm really sorry. I Can you stop sharing the screen so that we can see
yeah,
you? Yeah,
yeah,
thank you.
sure, sure.
Sorry.
Yeah. So the most regular version of the program is the on-campus, if you may call it residential full-time program, right? Where students sort of stay on campus. They have certain coursework to do. The amount of coursework depends on your background. We have a direct PhD program, which is open to a certain section which comes from CFTIs and other institutes. They have more coursework than people who have already done a master's. They have relatively lesser courses to do. So they come on campus, do these courses, identify a guide that they want to work with, and based on the areas that they're going to work with, their coursework is accordingly customized. Of course, there are a few basic courses that everyone does, like machine learning, deep learning, and others. But then based on the areas that you work in, you might have to do a few specialized courses, right? So that's the regular full-time program. We also have a part-time PhD program and an external program. So for the part-time PhD program, the requirement is that you need to be within a 50-kilometer radius of IIT Madras. You should be working somewhere within a 50-kilometer radius. And it's understood that you're going to continue working as well as do the PhD. It typically takes longer time because your day job is your day job. Your day job boss is the one who sits in front of you and sort of out of sight, out of mind happens, right? Because your advisor, once you finish the coursework, you go back. And so things generally take a bit of time there unless your day job is perfectly aligned with what you're doing in your PhD, which is often hard, right? I mean, it's very hard to do that. And similarly, we have an external PhD program, which is similar in flavor, except that the external PhD program is eligible. You are eligible for it only if you work in certain organizations. There's a list of organizations that we have. which has been certified by IIT Madras as research organizations, right? So, for example, DRDO is one of them. And then there are a few research labs across the country, both private and public, which qualify for them. So this means that you have enough guidance within your organization. You have a good research environment within your organization, and your faculty and your co-guide in the organization. You also need a co-guide in your organization. Will sort of jointly define the research problem that you work on, and your day job is more closely aligned to what you're required to do in the PhD, right? Again, often it takes a while for the stars to align, but it does, then it's a good win-win situation for everyone. But this is not something that it's open for everyone. For example, you're working in a startup which is 3 months old, then it's most likely that startup is not in the list of certified organizations that we have. And in that case, the option of external PhD is not open to you.
All right. So, and can you also elaborate on the process to get into the programs? And I think the question that is usually asked is what is the eligibility?
So for you need to have a BS plus master, the bachelor's plus master's degree, right, to be eligible for the program. There are certain institutes, centrally funded technical institutes, which are NITs, some of the triple ITs, for which we also have a direct PhD program. So if they have a CGPA above a certain threshold in their BTech programs, then they can apply for the direct PhD program. And then they become eligible for it. Uh, that I think, okay, I think that requires you to give the GATE exam also, if I'm not mistaken. If you have an MTech, then GATE is typically not required. You directly apply, and then we have a qualifying criteria on your UG percentage and the PG percentage, right? So that qualifying criteria is something that we announce at the time of admission. I'm not sure of the exact number right now, but it's upwards of 70% if I'm not wrong. So you need to have that much score in your UG and PG, and then you are eligible for joining. So that's the basic application eligibility. Now, once you apply, there are a few tests. There is a institute level test which focuses on aptitude and reasoning. There's also a department test which focuses on more data science subjects. And then if you clear these tests based on a certain cutoff that you clear, then you are called for an interview. There are typically 1 to 2 rounds of interviews that you go through. And in these interviews, there is a predefined list of subjects, which includes things like linear algebra, probability theory, machine learning, deep learning, data science, and algorithms, which we test you on, right? And we give you the chance to choose any two up from a basket of courses or a basket of subjects. And you have to answer questions on those things. So it's like a Viva, which happens. And based on your performance in the written test as well as the Viva, we do an aggregate score. And if you clear that aggregate score, then you are eligible for an offer letter from us.
There's one question about you mentioned a lot of research labs. So is there a further qualification for each research lab, or is it that you get into a common pool and then you decide? And
Yeah. So
also,
it's
like
a
I think one question that had come last webinar was also that how do you select your research area?
yeah. So you come into a common pool, right? And then once you join here, you have to meet all the faculty. Now, here one caveat that not all faculty necessarily may be taking PhD students, right? So, for example, there might be a faculty who has taken 2 PhD students in the last 6 months and may not have the bandwidth to take more. So it's always good that while you are deciding, many of you get offers from multiple IITs. While you're deciding, if you are very clear that this is the area that I want to work on, of all the faculty listed on the department webpage, this is the faculty that sounds most aligned with what my research interests are. Please write to them, check with them whether they are interested in taking students, and get that on paper or at least like a verbal confirmation. And then the process is that once you join, as I was saying, you basically get admitted into a common pool. You don't get assigned to a specific faculty. Once you join, you meet faculty. They try to assess you. Again, it's not like an interview or anything, but just try to assess like what your background is, what your interest is, why are you doing PhD, what is your long-term goal, and try to see if they aligns, many of the answers align with what they look for in a PhD student and what the areas they are working in. If that alignment happens, then the professor also says that of the 10 people that I spoke to, these are my top two priorities. And the students can also say of the 10 faculty that I've spoken to, my priorities align with these two, right? And then a match happens based on these priorities, right? So it is a process which happens after you join. It's not something that is guaranteed at the time of admission. But yeah, as I
Okay,
said, you
Professor.
start these discussions sooner if you're fairly confident that, yeah, I've in the past cleared gate, I'm confident with some of these interview subjects, and I'm very likely to get an offer, then maybe start these discussions a bit early on.
Professor, during the PhD process, I believe there's a stipend or a salary that is
Yes.
offered. Can you talk about that? And also, there is a question here which says a general life question. What are the monetary aspects after PhD?
Okay, just let me quickly. Of course, the stipend is given. I am just trying to see if I can quickly pull up the exact number. Yeah. So a stipend is provided. I'm just doing a quick Google search, and it says that the initial stipend for the first 2 years is around 37,000 rupees. And then as you progress, it increases up to 42,000, right? So it's anywhere between 37,000 to 42,000. But you should know that there are external support possible. So there's a PMRF program, which is Prime Minister's Research Fellowship, which then sort of tops it up by almost double, right? So if you get the PMRF fellowship, then your stipend becomes anywhere between 70,000 to 80,000. And in our past experience, we have seen that if you get admission in an IIT, then PMRF the chances of getting a PRF, of course, nothing is assured, but chances of getting a PMRF are quite high. In addition, faculty typically have projects, so they may choose to employ you on projects, and then they have a choice to pay more based on whatever funding they have from the project that they are employing you on. And it's again, from your perspective, it's a good situation because the projects are typically something like which is aligned to your research. So your faculty will put you in those projects and then ask you to sort of work on research problems which are aligned with the deliverables or the goals of the project, right? So that's how it is. So these are the different options available.
What about after PhD, sir?
After PhD. After PhD, I mean, it's a long journey, right? It's a 5 year journey, so very hard to say what upfront, right? I mean, at least in the AI world, the salaries are crazy today, and I expect them to continue growing. But of course, I mean, giving any concrete answer is very hard because it also depends on how well you do in your PhD, right? So remember, unlike any other program that you have done so far, which is a B Tech or an M Tech, where it's like a fixed set of courses which your university decides, you know it before joining, you go through the grind, finish those many credits, those many courses, and you're out with a degree. And your marks determines your percentage, and that determines your sort of how the world sees you, right? Unfortunately or unfortunately, there's a marks or a CGPA system. But in PhD, it's not like that. I mean, you do courses which is just in the first 6 months to 1 year of your degree, and the remaining 4 years is essentially research work, right? So how good is your PhD, how the world sees you depends on what you do in those 4 to 5 years, which is often judged by the number of papers you publish in top venues and so on, right? So what happens after a PhD depends on that, right? So it's not sort of something which is a guaranteed route. I don't want to paint any false picture, but there are a few guidelines in the sense that you should try to, if you're clear that after a PhD you want to join industry, right? Then you should make sure that in concurrence with your advisor, you go for a few industry internships during your PhD, get that exposure. And many of these often tend to convert into what are known as PPOs, right? Which is a pre-placement offer, or they try to sort of, you have a better chance of getting into those organizations if you have done well during the internship, right? So it's a combination of different factors. There is no single number, and it depends on whether you join academia, you join startups, you join a deep tech research lab like Google, Microsoft, and others, right? So it's a wide spectrum. But more importantly, it depends on what you do in the 4 years.
I want to just say that it's quite amusing to answer this question, right? Like, because I think it's the opposite that happens. There's too much of demand for researchers in the AI space right now from the industry.
Yeah.
Professor, I'll just ask you some of the questions here. A lot of them are very specific questions about the person's current state. So one question is about whether if somebody is doing a part-time PhD, while working at some other company, is the company's approval needed?
Yes, it is needed. The company's approval is needed.
Okay,
There's some
there's
NOC or something needed from the company.
okay. And the admission date, I believe, is March 30th, right?
The application deadline. Yeah.
And is it like the application deadline for all the programs, the part-time
Yes, it's
program,
a
full-time program?
yeah. It's an IITM wide deadline. So all branches, all programs, all types of PhD programs have the same deadline.
And does this happen once a year, sir? What will be
No, we
will the
have
next deadline?
admissions twice a year. So we follow the one admissions happen in the July cycle and the other admissions happen in the Jan cycle. So for the July cycle, March 31st is the deadline. For the Jan cycle, I believe it should be somewhere around October. But please check our website. But yeah, we have two cycles.
Okay, is and this is the same for direct and after MS, right?
Yeah, it's the same. There's a single deadline.
Okay. Is there an age restriction, sir?
Not to the best of my knowledge.
Okay. Okay. What I'm going to do, sir, is some of the questions are very specific, so I'm just going to paste them in the chat between us,
Uh,
and just see if you want to answer them.
yeah.
This one
So
is from
one
Rahul. Yeah.
clarification on the direct PhD, which you can do after BTech, right? That's what we refer to as direct PhD, as opposed to doing a master's. So please go to the eligibility criteria listed on the website and see. Many of you may just be fresh BTechs. I can see a couple of questions around that. So you should look at that and see if you are eligible for those direct PhD admission, which does not require a master's degree.
Just one question from Rahul Kumar. He's pursuing an MS in computer science at IIT Hyderabad. He asks, many researchers are building increasingly large ML and LLM models, but computation cost is becoming a major bottleneck. While designing models, what key parameters or factors should we prioritize? Um,
This is like a very research question. Can answer, but
Maybe.
yeah. Yeah, compute costs are becoming higher, but at the same time, I would say the costs are also coming down, right? As opposed to what ChatGPT the first when it had come out, it has been slicing prices by half almost every 6 months or a bit more than that, right? And they're expected to go even lower in the coming years, right? Because now hardware which is optimized to LLM inference workloads is getting built, right? Already built, right? It's not getting built. The next generation of NVIDIA GPUs are already optimizing for that. Better software layers on top of that, which are mindful of how LLMs work internally and how to pack in more in a single GPU are also being done, right? So all of this will improve the inference. What is clear so far is that while it feels very wise to say that hey, we should build small language models and make them work for specific things that we have. As of now, there is very little evidence that small language models, even in narrow domains, outperform larger language models which have more sort of broader intelligence. I wouldn't call it general intelligence, but broader intelligence and can do many tasks. And all the deep tech companies around the world are continue to scale, right? They're building bigger and bigger models. So I've not seen much merit in going the smaller route, except for very specific tasks like speech recognition and other things, right? So I expect this trend to continue for some years. And then maybe through distillation and other efforts, maybe we'll start having smaller models. But I know that the deep tech is definitely not going in that direction. They're going towards larger and larger models. I'll just sort of pause here. This is a very researchy question.
I had a question related to this. I think maybe it's under it's not said very clearly, but that means that the department a research lab working on these kind of projects must have access to that kind of computation, right?
Yes and no. I mean, we don't, of course, don't have access to compute which matches industry scale, right? But we keep getting grants, and we currently have good access to compute. I would say uh, at par with other IITs, if not better, right? So yes, and we expect this condition to only improve in the coming months and years, right? So we will, through the India AI mission, we have access to quite a bit of good compute which we can tap into. So yes.
Professor, there's a question from one of the current students, master students. I've just pasted. It's a long question in the webinar chat, if you can see.
Yeah.
Mm.
Is it I'm currently second semester
Yes,
person?
yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. So in principle, yes, right? So not Sarvam AI. Sarvam AI is not like officially connected to IIT Madras. But in the centers that I mentioned, like Serai, AI for Bharat, Mint, and other centers which are officially a part of the department. So the way it works is that I'm a faculty in the Department of Data Science and AI. I also head a couple of research centers. The students who take admission in the Department of Data Science and AI, be it MS or PhD students, work with me, and their work is aligned to the work that I do in these centers of excellence, right? So in that sense, they are actually working in AI for Bharat or Bodhan AI, right? Working towards those goals. So yeah, that is possible. As I said, it depends on the vacancy of different faculty at that time. Based on your interest, you should write to them and see whether they are currently taking PhD students in the areas that you are interested in, right? So that's the answer to the first question. External PhD, again, it's a department thing, right? It's not that it's just tied to a research center. So department has provision for external PhD. Now, the specific faculty that you're interested in working with has to sort of agree on having an external PhD. For example, in my case, I may have certain preferences or non-preferences about how I structure the PhD program. So those stars need to align. So you should start discussing with the prospective faculty. But there's no reason. I mean, it's not related to centers, right? The department allows. So yes, you can do an external PhD at IIT Madras. But the way it happens is that you need to find a guide within your organization. You need to find a guide within IIT Madras. Before the interview process, you need to write a proposal, the research proposal, in sort of consultation with your internal guide as well as IIT Madras guide, and submit that research proposal also, right? So that's the part of the interview process. And if everyone in this chain agrees with what you want to do, then the possibility of an external PhD is there, and you can be associated with the center. Applied AI PhD, how does the research work be different from the regular PhD? Uh, yeah, so there's no difference, right? It's just an area. So, for example, you could work in theoretical machine learning. We have faculty in the department working in theoretical machine learning. You could work in sort of uh, uh, areas of AI like natural language processing, speech, vision, right? And still do foundational work on building models, doing evaluations, and so on. And you could work in applied AI, like you take AI, sort of AI algorithms and apply them to specific areas, right? But now those areas are also becoming quite foundational, right? For example, AI for science is one of the coolest things to do today. And if you're sort of working on kind of things that I was listed for Professor Karthik Raman, right, genome sequencing and other things. So those are sort of again foundational, right? I mean, applied but still foundational work. Now, applying AI to maternal health care or early age child health care, those are all applications of AI. So I'll give you an example, like by taking a photo, which is very easy, of a newborn baby, can you estimate the weight of the baby? Right now, the problem is that this early estimation of weight helps in detecting whether the child is born with the right weight category and does it need additional support and so on, right? And now, in villages, sort of weighing machine and all often not available. The people weighing it sort of don't do it properly, or there might be other challenges. But now, photo is something that anyone can take, and I could quickly take 4 to 5 photos of the baby. Based on that, can you sort of estimate the weight, right? So you're not building like foundational vision models here. You might take a off the shelf vision model and then sort of fine tune it for the specific task of detecting weight, right? So that's what applied AI research looks like, or AI applied to medical image processing, all of this, right? But now all of these areas, because of the sort of growth in the depth of AI, have their own foundational research problems also, right? So it's not necessarily just applied work, but foundational work applicable for that specific domain that you're going to work in.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Professor, I just want to inform the audience that there are over 50 questions. We cannot possibly answer everything. Wherever the question is very specific, our team will send you an answer by tomorrow evening. But in this context, Professor Mitesh, I will have a question. Um, if even if someone is not very sure, they can apply, they can meet the application deadline and apply and later figure it out, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, we encourage you to do that. There's quite a bit of time between the application and when we start processing, start calling for interviews, exams, and other things. So you have enough time to figure out things. It's always good to just apply and keep so that you don't miss out on the deadline. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So one question I found interesting because of the way we answered a previous question. The question is, please explain after PhD, how can one go into an academic field?
Super. Yeah, that's good. So Uh, yeah, so typically the path that a PhD student takes to join academia, right, which would, let's say, be take up a faculty position in one of the IITs in India, right? Uh, Again, depending on how well you do in your PhD, I've seen two paths. Sometimes the candidate has done great work in their PhD, and they are sort of already getting offers from existing IITs, right? So while you are in the fifth year, through your advisor, you start putting out feelers that, okay, I am on the job market now. This is what my profile looks like. Are you looking to hire and so on? And they've done exceptionally good. You will be sort of chased by the top, even the top IITs in India. This is slightly rare in the sense that top of the top get through this path. The other more regular path is that after your PhD, you join for a postdoc, and the rationale there is that if you have done your PhD from India, most likely you have done your master's, BTech, your entire education from India, right? So there is sort of merit in you sort of moving out of India for a couple of years, doing postdoc somewhere in the US, Europe, or other regions. Learning the working style there, the research style there, also building your network, right? Because when you go for a postdoc, there might be a couple of other postdocs in the same lab or in adjacent labs. These are all going to future become faculty at different places, either in US, Europe, or other places, maybe even in India. You'd also be working with a large group of PhD students because a postdoc typically works with 4 to 5 PhD students, act as a buffer between their PhD guide and the PhD students. Now, these PhD students over a period of time will graduate, join industry, join academia. So a network starts building, right? As opposed to while you were in India, you only had exposure to certain students and so on, right? So it is advisable to do that. You also get exposure to how research is done, how people approach research in these countries outside India, right? And we have found merit in bringing those practices back to India, bringing that wisdom back with you. So you have more to offer once you join the Indian ecosystem, right? And the other reason for that is that sometimes people want to accelerate their publication journey, right? Because in PhD, often in the first 2 years or so, you would be sort of a bit slow because you're trying to find your feet, get through the official coursework and all of those things, right? Now, once you are in your fourth, fifth year, that's where you really start getting fertile with ideas. You had worked on something for a long time, and now you know how it can be applied to other related problems, and you're looking to quickly accelerate publishing your ideas, right? And that time, being a postdoc, where you can have other PhD students and master students working with you, who can have more hands on the table, right? And then sort of accelerate your journey. So that is another reason why people do a postdoc. Sometimes people also do it to sort of slightly shift that area. During your PhD, maybe you worked on speech recognition, but now you want to start working on audio LLMs, right? Which is sort of related in some way. The basics of speech processing all remain, but the paradigm changes a bit from standalone models to a full-fledged LLM, right? So if you want to do a slight pivot in your research area, again, to expand your research spectrum, then that's another reason to do a postdoc. So many candidates prefer that, and postdocs either you do in top research labs, it could be in India or abroad, or top universities. again in India or abroad, right? It's sort of more beneficial often to do it abroad. Unless in India you find like a very specific group which is doing very nice work, completely aligned with what your interests are, and hence you want to go there. So that's the other path that people take after PhD, do a couple of years of postdoc, and then come back with a much sort of wider research profile, maybe a few more publications added to your profile, better worldview, a better network, which will help you during your academic job here in writing collaborative research proposals, having a pathway for students to go to internships in these research labs where you have spent some time and so on. Right? So it helps to do that.
Professor, there are two interesting questions. One is about mid-career or early career folks who want to who want to come into the AI domain. Is PhD a good opportunity? And also, like, I feel like this is interesting because, Professor, you started your career as a working professional, right? And all, yeah. So maybe I'll just let you answer that first.
Yeah. So I think it depends on what stage of the career. Generally, there is benefit in doing a PhD early on in your career, right? Especially in India when we have sort of various social pressures and other things, right? So if within the first 5 to 7 years of joining industry, I think it's still good. But of course, be mindful that you have been away from academics, you have been away from studies, right? I mean, even sitting into a classroom for 1 hour, taking notes, going through the assignments, sitting through exams and all, it can be a bit daunting. So make sure you're mentally prepared for those things. Also depends on what is your motive, right? I mean, switching to AI means several things. Do you want to switch to foundational research in AI, or do you just want to use AI and build solutions? You have been building solutions in the industry. Now you just want to build AI-based solutions. So depending on your motivation, you have to be very clear about what you want to do in the long run. A couple of reasons why you should think of PhD is if you're looking at a research career in the long run, right? So all across research labs, startups, beyond a point, your growth gets stagnated if you do not have the right research credentials, right? Of course, there's an alternative viewpoint that in a few years, whatever education will completely overhaul, but I'm talking about the current scenario where you often need sort of a research degree, like a PhD, to move forward in certain roles, especially in, say, a research scientist role or a senior researcher, principal scientist roles and all. Many industry do not offer these jobs to non-PhD. So if you have a clear such target in mind that this is a role which I see one of my colleagues do or one of my friends do, and that looks exciting to me based on deep discussions, right? Not superficially, grass always looks greener on the other side, but having deep discussions with these people, you feel, okay, this is exactly what I wanted to do. But at a certain stage in my life, I was not able to do a PhD due to whatever reasons. And now I'm at a stage of my life where I'm comfortable in making that switch. So if you're very clear about pursuing this research path, which is only open to certain degrees like PhD, then you should join. The other reason is if you are clear that you want to join academia, which is the case for me. And that path in India is only open if you have done a PhD, right? Especially if you are aiming for an academic journey in the top institutes in the country, then a PhD is the basic requirement that all faculty vacancies in top academic institutes in the country have, right? So if these are two pathways that you're looking for, then you should join a PhD. But if your objective is a bit superficial and not very clear on what you want to do after a PhD, I would like you to have a discussion with the right set of people, right? Preferably people who have walked this path, and then try to understand whether it's a necessity for you to walk this path given your career goals.
Okay. Some questions are about the degree they've had before. So somebody has mentioned saying they have masters in MSc, in mathematics, and not from a coding, not from a CS background. Some other similar questions. The question may be more general that if I don't have a CS background, what are the other backgrounds that are good for this PhD course?
Yeah, I'm just again quickly checking. I think we have listed this on our website. Let me just check. I also don't remember all the degrees that we are open for, but I can quickly check if this is available on the website. Okay. Okay. So there is, it is there on the website. Yeah. So for full-time PhD, it just says that candidates need to have completed a PG degree in engineering slash technology. For a part-time degree, again, the same. For a full-time direct PhD, this is the option that I was talking about. So you should have done any 4-year UG degree of IITs, CFTIs, UGC, AICT, or a master's degree in appropriate engineering technology. So it looks like if you have a PG degree in engineering slash technology, now MSc mathematics, I'm not sure where it falls. Does it fall in engineering? I don't think so, but it does fall in technology, I think. Um, yeah.
Hmm. Maybe what we can do is if the person who asked the question, if they can email it to us, we can do a clarification
Yeah,
with
I
the
think that's
office.
best. Yeah, I think that's best. There's always some ambiguity around these things. So yeah, please
Yeah.
write to us. I think it's best if we do it over email.
Somebody has asked, should I have papers published to be eligible?
No, no, not at all.
Um, okay. So uh, i- i- if they are already in IIT Madras, maybe they're doing an MTech, do they have to give the gate again?
No.
Okay. Um, okay. Is an MTech from BITS Pilani work integrated learning program qualify? I'm not sure what the work integrated learning program is
It's a
actually.
it's a part-time MTech program, if I know correctly. Um, Again, some of these things depend on what is written on the degree, right? Is it written part-time MTech or what is written? Um, yeah, you'll have to write to us and we'll have to get a specific clarification for this.
Yeah, I want to clarify to the audience again. There are a lot of the questions that I'm not asking the professor because they're very, very specific, and the professor may not offhand remember it. We'll have to check the documents. So if you can email it to us, my team will look it up. The others from the department are also here. Srivatsan Setu is here. Our CEO Sridhar is also here. We'll find the answer for you and send it to you by email. One question is about you mentioned private companies for the part-time PhD. Is there, and you mentioned there's a list, right?
Yeah,
Approved list,
yeah, there is
where,
an list. Again, I don't know the URL for that.
okay, sure, we will send it.
Yeah.
If you can, Kumar Harsh is the person. If you can send us that question by email, we will answer it. Um, I think that again, some questions are about whether to think of PhD considering the money that you make during the stipend period. Is there any financial assistance that is given? Um, yeah, I
So
I
a
don't know why
few
this question
things,
comes to.
right?
I don't.
I mean, as I said,
Sorry,
a
I.
few. There's a stipend given by the government, which is in the range of 37,000 to 42,000. On top of that, you could apply for the PMRF. If you get through, then your stipend becomes effectively 70,000 to 80,000. Many of us faculty who have funding and have research centers like the ones which were listed, also irrespective of the PMRF and your stipend, we also give you an increased stipend by putting you on the project. So that could also be anywhere between 70,000 to 1 lakh. Then there are fellowships to be applied for. Google PhD fellowship is a very sort of coveted fellowship, and there are a few others. If you get these fellowships, they have a stipend component, which again effectively makes your stipend anywhere close to 1 lakh, right? So these options are available. Yeah, so you could, but all of this is like post you join, right? As of now, the number that you have to be mindful about is 37,000 to 42,000.
Okay. I know that a lot of you have asked this question again and again. We are going to stop taking money-related questions now completely. And if you have any more questions, you can ask us. I don't think anybody in the IT system is really that worried about the amount of money we will make. It's given that it will be sufficient to live a very comfortable life. I think that's the way we should look at it. Professor, there's one question that I think we skipped over this in the intro. What are the multi interdisciplinary projects available if somebody is from, say, electrical or some other field, other than, of course, your own research topics, which you mentioned?
Yeah. Um, So, see, in general, right, we're a fairly open institute. Interdisciplinary is one of the sort of key phrases that we have in many of our discussions. Now we actually have the School of Interdisciplinary Studies also. But these very specific things, right, that I have done something in electrical engineering and say I want to apply AI to power grids, right? So how do you optimize the scheduling of power grids? That is the specific problem that I want to work on, right? Now, this is something that you have to write to the faculty, right? And say that this is especially what I'm working on. I see a faculty in electrical engineering who has the right background. I see some faculty in the AI department who works on optimization, reinforcement learning, theoretical machine learning, which could be used for this problem. Would you be open in sort of jointly co-guiding me, right? 9 out of 10 times the answer would be yes, right? But these are again very specific things, right, which we sort of have to activate only when we get a stimulus for it, right? I mean, by default, you join, you work with a specific guide, and that's about it, right? So, but if you're looking for something very specific, then you need to sort of write it and clarify, right, what it is. But in general, we are a fairly open institute. We like these ideas. We like interdisciplinary work. In fact, the genesis of this department was something in the interdisciplinary laboratory for data sciences. That's where we started in 2013. Then it evolved into the Robert Bosch Center for Data Science and AI, and then eventually evolved into the Department of Data Science and AI, right? So, and many of our faculty, if you look at their profile, they do quite a bit of interdisciplinary work, healthcare, biology, chemistry, transportation already, right? But what you ask for is something very specific. I don't know if any faculty in the department is directly working on that. Please find out and then make a specific ask to that faculty.
And also in this subject, I have come to realize of late that faculty's interests also change with time, right? So
Yeah.
they keep doing newer things as the world changes. Professor, there's a student whose question is, I want to thank you, Mitesh sir, for your amazing deep learning lectures. So
Thank you.
I
Thank
will
you so
just, is there a weightage given to prior work experience compared to gate score? Is there some kind of a
No, no explicit weightage of any of these things, right? I mean, we just have observed that some of these, like someone asked, do I need to have a publication, right? Or do I have prior experience? It's just that some of these things sort of, anyways, through your interview show up, right? So, for example, if you have published a paper, then you probably have a very good understanding of the foundations of deep learning. So, when we are interviewing on that subject, you will be more comfortably placed than some of the other students, right? So, through that, it may come out. Similarly, if you have industry experience and we have some questions around data science, around coding, and so on, because you have worked, you have probably built systems, you might be more comfortable in answering those questions. But there's no explicit weightage. We don't even look at any of these things. We don't try to get influenced by any of your prior experience. Yeah.
okay?
But you'll
Let me
definitely
just
see an edge in the interview. Yeah.
um. There's two questions actually regarding colleges in India, including the IITs, preferring candidate for faculty positions, preferring candidates who have done their PhD abroad. Is it changing? Does WSAI have a more favorable position?
Yeah, I mean, I have done my PhD from India, so I think that should answer it. No, but yeah, I do agree. I mean, but it's not that. I mean, I had asked this question 10 years back when I was looking for faculty positions that I have done my PhD from India. Would that be a disadvantage? And I got a very clear, unambiguous answer that it doesn't matter where you have done your PhD from. What matters is what you have done during your PhD, right? So if you have done really good work during your PhD, that question sort of is eliminated, right? Where you have done your PhD from. It just happens that sometimes because of the exposure that people get in foreign universities and so on, maybe their profiles might look a bit better, right? But it's more about the profile and not from where you have done a PhD. We have several faculty in the computer science and engineering department, maybe some, yeah, we have some in our department itself who have done their PhD from IISc, but I have done it from IIT Bombay. We have recently someone who has done their PhD from IIT Madras a few years back and now has joined us, right? So it just depends on what you have done during and potentially after your PhD in terms of the postdoc work, or if you have joined industry for a few years and then are applying. So your profile matters. Where you have done is not important. That perhaps influences what your profile looks like, but that question is a moot question once you have a good profile.
Okay, there's a question here which I'm not really sure it's relevant, but I'll ask it. Is there a student exchange program equivalent in PhDs, like how it is there in BTech?
Not formally, right? But we have cases where faculty have good relationships with other faculty in foreign universities, and they sort of activate those relationships. And if the area of research is aligned, you could sort of spend 6 months as an intern in one of these places, right? Again, this is not built into the program. There is no guarantee. You have been observing geopolitics for the past 1 year, so it all depends on several of those factors, right? Sometimes visa processing itself becomes a challenge, but I have seen instances and evidences of this happening, where people spend 6 months to 1 year in other labs through their faculty relationships. My own students have spent 6 months to 1 year in internships uh, in Google and other places abroad, right? So they have done their internships in UK or Zurich or other places in deep tech industry. We have tried to align it with their research work, and then they have come back, right? So all of this is a possibility. None of this is a given on the day of admission, right? It depends on what you do, how your faculty sort of looks at your research program over 4 years, and at what point of internship or a foreign visit makes sense. It's something that evolves during your PhD.
Okay, sir. Uh, so many of these questions are very specific. Again, I'm going to ask the audience, if your question is very specific, email it to us. We will answer it on email. Professor, one question about exam, interview, tests subsequent to the application process. Are they going to be in person on campus?
So since COVID, I mean, of course, this department was formed after COVID, but in our other departments where all of us were, we have been having online interviews, right? And I think this semester also we are going to continue that. If that changes, we give you enough notice and time for you to be able to book tickets, plan your travel, and all of that. Uh, in high probability, it will be online only. You won't have to come here. But in the event that you have to come here, we will provide you ample time to plan.
Okay. Okay, this is answered. Uh, I'm a, oh, okay, this is also answered. So just to clarify, part-time PhD, you have to be within 50 kilometers, right?
Yes.
Is there something called a project PhD? No, again, I'm just going to skip this. I think this already answered. Mm, uh, okay, some people have asked about the video of this. We will send it. Don't worry about it. It's also there on YouTube. Um, this question keeps coming again. I think you've answered it, but some people have joined late, so they're asking it again. Direct PhD, they can use the same, after BTech, they can use the same admission process, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so whoever's asked this question about, I just have a BTech, I don't have a MTech, it's the same process. Please use the admissions portal. Maybe the criteria will be a little different, but yes, you can apply. Okay, I think now the questions are mostly repeating and um, are just very, very specific. So I think it'll be better if we answer the rest of the questions on email. Um, Professor, yeah, yeah. Anybody? Okay, very interesting. Is there any work going on in AGI in IT Madras?
Yeah, I don't even know what AGI means. No, not really. We are, as I said, it's not very well defined also, right? What does AGI really mean? And the kind of resources required to chase it is not something that we could do in an academic setup. So the answer is no. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, somebody asked whether part-time PhD or full-time PhD is valued more or less. I've just answered saying, as long as you finish your PhD, it's all good.
Yeah, as long as you finish, I mean, as I said, I mean, all depends on what you do in your PhD, right? As that's the distinction from a regular course where you get a percentage and that defines you. Similarly, here, your work defines you, right? So part-time, full-time, all of that doesn't matter. But a word of caution, um, and PhD requires full commitment, right? So if you're doing it part-time externally, and if your external part-time world is very detached from your PhD world, then you would have challenges, right? So be mindful of that.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, I think somebody has asked a question about the growth curve of AI. Um, I guess I think the question more means that is there going to be more opportunities in this field compared to other fields? I don't know whether I mean I don't know how to even construct the question here, sir.
Mm.
Yeah, I think we'll just skip it. Okay, sir. I think now the questions are quite kind of specific and repeating. So the rest of you who have questions, can you email it to us? Um, we had booked Professor for about an hour, and we have sort of done an hour. Our email ID is office@dsai.iitm.ac.in. Um, and we are responding this week to your questions since this is just one or it's like less than 10 days away for the admission portal deadline. So yeah, email it to us. We will reply. Professor, any parting words?
No, wish you all the best to apply, irrespective of whether you are on the fence or not. And I think it's always good to apply and go through the sort of procedure so that you know where you stand. So please do that and look forward to having at least some of you join the department in July. So good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bye, everyone.
Bye.